Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona. We hope to answer a few questions today. Please feel free to submit a question in the question bar on the side. And let's proceed with the first one.
Ajahn, our first question today is from the live stream from Neen in Kenya. Hello, is nirvana the only permanent way out of suffering?
Yes, think about this. It's almost like asking, is no suffering the only way out of suffering? So nirvana is another word for non-suffering. So any situation or viewpoint which has the potential for being unsatisfactory or suffering is not nirvana. And so nirvana is that which is devoid of suffering. Nirvana is attained. So nirvana is another, it's used, it's a word used for other things that the Buddha is borrowing. It was, stillness or coolness, the end of, turmoil and so forth in the language before Buddhism. And so he's borrowing words from the language and giving them new definitions. So nirvana is then the Buddha goes to into great detail to explain what nirvana is, and it's very clear that nirvana is attained during a life. It's not simply something that happens after death. It's for a conscious being. It's an endeavor, and it's not something granted from without. In other words, it's not a peace that is given to you from God or something like that. It's peace that descends from wisdom, and the wisdom is gained by an individual by reflecting and also exercising the mind in a certain way. There are many ways to use the mind. And most, I would say, in the modern world, we're familiar with the spectrum of uses for the mind. Ordinary psychology and so forth talks about how to use your mind, and people who are particularly dysfunctional and in a terrible mess are using their minds in self-destructive ways. And we have all kinds of labels for this. We have, mental illnesses, and we have types of descriptions which indicate the person is deluded, not processing reality correctly. There are cognitive types of problems where the person is not seeing correctly or hearing correctly, and they have side effects from this. And then there's excessive worry and agitation, so forth. This is very familiar to us. And then there's not a lot of advice about the alternatives to those. Somehow the modern world would emphasize that you're supposed to be ambitious and energetic and engaged, and you're supposed to have a few certain emotions too. You're supposed to have a little bit of empathy and so forth. But normal humans aren't saints either. So normative psychology has to say, well, you're all right if you like to make a lot of money, and play sports and so forth, you're all right. They can't really talk about highest values or anything like that in normative psychology. And the training, if they were talking about training the mind, they would usually talk about education, so that can you absorb information and use it skillfully or practically. And so that would be another use of the mind, a way of mind use. The Buddha is going quite beyond all of those categories. He doesn't think it's adequate to be functional, a sort of a normal person who can get along in society, but still has the normal range of emotions. They're angry and disappointed about this and that, and they crave this and they're excited about that, and they like to be admired, and so for all this kind of stuff is in the normal range, but certainly it's not satisfactory. The Buddha talks about why it isn't. And so in order to go beyond this, you have to use non-normal or supernormal types of practices for the mind. And one of them is to see if you can stop your mind from proliferating thinking. And can you pay attention to a non-sensual kind of topic for extended periods of time? So your own breathing, for instance, can you pay attention to that for an extended period of time, fully and completely? So these are kind of trainings of the mind which can lead to this end of suffering, because suffering, the Buddha is saying clearly, suffering arises from your relationship to reality, how the mind functions. Beyond that, still, of course, the fact of having a body is a problem. With no body, there wouldn't be problems, right? The body it's a physical thing, and it's prone to sickness and aging and all kinds of pains and troubles. That remains. So the psychology of non-suffering is what we're talking about in this life. If this is accomplished, then that cessation of suffering achieved in this life is not resumed in a future life. Now, what that is, by the way, that the term for the death of a person who has attained this non-suffering state, which is called an arahant. There are various terms for this, but arahant is quite often the most frequent used. One whose practice is complete. So this is the fourth stage of enlightenment. This is the full enlightenment. Then they do not. It's said by the Buddha that explicitly there's no further birth. Now, what that is, the mind, it's not possible to articulate that in normative language, mostly because the words that we use in normative language have references to the world we live in, the situation we live in. So there are no particular meaningful terms for what this possibly could be outside of this life, what this final nirvana or post-death nirvana is. And various people write essays about it and so forth, but I prefer to just leave it as something that is beyond articulation, beyond language. But certainly in this life, that is, the cessation of suffering. Nirvana is a synonym for the cessation of suffering. So that's the key. And what's so interesting about it is it's up to you. You are given the directions, and this empowers you. It doesn't take it out of your own hands. You know, there's certain religions that remove your capacities to improve your situation. They say you're completely dependent on something else, and it's the whim of something else that can give you salvation. something outside of you. It's not up to you. You can't do it. This is problematic if you can do it. Buddhism would insist that only you can do it. Nobody else can. No outside factor can do this. Only you can do this. So it's liberating in a sense to have a feeling that it's up to you. You can change your mind as you wish. But at the same time, a lot of people would like somebody else to do it for them because it's a daunting task. The mind is so complex and so forth. So you will see personalities that are drawn to surrendering their own agency and hoping and praying that somebody else will save them. And then others who would prefer to take responsibility for their own mind and find it very empowering to that message that you are responsible and you can go anywhere you want if you can enable the right map. You know, if you can get a hold of the right map, you can get to where you want to get to. Okay, so, well, that was from Kenya, right? Yes, well, welcome. I don't remember anybody from Kenya asking a question before, but I'm always pleased about the worldwide audience we have. It's very interesting. People from all over the world. Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery live stream. Next
question from the live stream is from Terry in New York City. Thank you for this amazing resource. Is joy supposed to arise naturally from meditation? If not, how does one generate it?
Yeah. It's like, does music arise naturally from practicing the piano? If you don't practice, music won't arise. But simply practicing the piano doesn't make music appear. Playing the notes doesn't make music. So this is, if you took piano lessons as a kid, it can be quite a frustrating experience. Seems to be an exercise. Most people quit the piano after a while and so forth. But if you do it the right way, then the music arises, and that's a very stimulating experience. It's the same with meditation, is that if the instructions are followed, and by the way, this is not so easy, it's the mind. Can the mind follow the instructions, the hints given by the Buddha? And if it does follow those, it is quite inevitable that joy will arise. But many people are lacking in all kinds of capacities. So many people have very scattered attention. They find it very difficult to keep their mind on one thing for any length of time. It's going to be extremely difficult for them to follow the map that the Buddha gives. So they won't get any joy out of it. In fact, they would get. It will be a painful experience to try to sit there and so-called meditate when you can't. By the way, meditation always works, but the thing is that most people, sitting down with your eyes closed, even in a monastery, is not meditation. It's what is your mind doing? So if your mind isn't doing what is asked of it, then there won't be good results. There won't be any meditation going on. But if the mind can do those, then the results will naturally follow. The Buddha is very convinced that the mind operates in according to certain laws, cause and effect in the psychological dimension. And if you put in this cause, then that will result. Certain things will result. This is what I suppose psychology is an attempt to discover whether the operations of the mind are random or lawful. And this is the hard sciences like physics seem to be convinced that the physical universe operates in lawful or a predictable way. If certain causes are put in, then results will appear. And then we ask, is that the case for biology? Is that the case how bodies work, living beings work? Are they lawful, or are they kind of partially lawful and a lot of scattered randomness? The Buddha is very strongly suggesting that the mind is lawful, and if you discover the laws and practice in a certain way, redirect the mind again and again in a certain way, then results must appear. Not just may, but must appear. And so this is the nature of it. Joy should appear. If the right causes are put in, joy should appear. Joy is a result of actual, another word for it is it's the result of interest. So if you can get your mind, notice that when you're really interested in something, we say, I'm enjoying this. It's almost a synonym for being interested in something. I'm really interested in that. And I enjoy that. So there's the key. Interest and joy are pretty well synonyms. So if you can be interested in any particular object, joy will accompany that. But without the interest, dry work at it won't give you joy. Quite often we go through the education system, we perform, we know it's good that we need to get our degree and so forth, so we trudge away, but we're not interested. We pay attention, but we're not really interested, and therefore we're not enjoying ourselves. So it's not just paying attention, but in being truly interested is the key to this arising of joy. Okay, next.
Next question from the live stream is from Vish. Dear Ajahn, I will die in roughly 10 years from a terminal disease. I am being kept alive artificially. The last 2 weeks of life will be excruciating. Would euthanasia as a form of mercy from pain be okay? Lastly, is there a way to overcome the fear of the uncertainty of death, or is that only possible for a non-returner or arahant?
Okay, well, death is inevitable for all of us. You have an illness that your sort of maximum capacity is 10 years. By the way, maybe the other news is that nobody knows if you're going to last 10 years. You might not make it through the next week. So, and none of us know whether we're going to last 10 years either. Nobody knows how it's going to play out in the next minute or so. Heart stops. It happens for all kinds of people. Some kid in a high school, they drop dead in the hallway, like they're 14 years old. Just things stop working. It just happens. Nobody knows. So death is universal, and the uncertainty around it is universal as well. The options are fear or not fear. You don't get to avoid the death thing, but you have a choice about the fear thing. So fear is a negative emotion, and if it helped, maybe it would be worth it, but fear doesn't help. It tends to cloud the mind, make bad decisions. So it's definitely a bad idea to be afraid. Fear of anything. But it doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself, or that you walk around with dangerous objects or something like that. You don't put yourself in harm's way because you're fearless. That's called stupidity, not fearlessness. So absence of fear is an emotional thing, but it doesn't mean that you're not caring about yourself. So abandon the fear thing, but care about yourself. And know that everybody has to face the death thing. And we don't know what kind of pain there'll be around the situation either. Quite often pain surrounds near-death experience. So basically what we're saying is everything's normal. You're in a normal situation. Nothing is abnormal or extraordinary about your situation. You're experiencing normality. And so that's what you should be telling yourself. It's like, yeah, there's nothing special going on here. Everything's normal. I'm going to die like everybody else. They say this disease might wind me out in about 10 years, but there's no guarantee that I'll make it through next week, like everybody else on the planet as well. So now you're into the truth of nature of human existence. Now about the euthanasia, there's a funny word, it's EU means good, and thanatos is death. So a good death. They always want to bring in a funny word to make it a good death. What they mean is self-induced death or suicide. It's not euthanasia, it's suicide. Choosing to have kill yourself. So it's a bad idea. In terms of dealing with pain that is surrounding the inevitability of death, they have all kinds of pain medicines. And they can even put you in a deep coma. If the last, I don't know how they can determine that you're going to be in pain for the last 2 weeks of your life at this 10-year disease. It's quite a startling prediction. But first of all, they have lots of people are in terrible condition in car accidents and so forth. And what they do is they just induce a coma. And if the person comes out of it, they can reintroduce consciousness. And if they die in the induced coma, then that's fine. But the pain, it's not necessary to have excruciating pain these days. There are so many ways of reducing that. Especially if death is inevitable, then deep medication is fine. I get this question a lot. People say, I'm not supposed to take drugs or alcohol. That's the 5th precept. What if I'm in pain in the hospital and they want to give me morphine? And I say, take it. Because pain itself is an intoxicant. In the case of extreme physical pain, that will drive you out of your mind. And the morphine works to reduce the intoxication of pain. But if you're not in physical pain, then you don't take these medications which are meant to reduce pain. They're not used for pleasure or anything else. They're purposely for the reduction of physical pain. So that's the way you should look at it. Just make sure that you're okay with deep medications. And then stop being afraid, because it won't help. It'll make things worse. Do you want to make things worse, or do you want to make things better? I think you want to make things better. So stop with the pain, because that's pain. I mean, stop with the fear, because fear is pain. Is painful. Stop that. And then let go of the idea you're going to die in 10 years and meditate every day, say, I could die tomorrow. Because that's the way everybody should be thinking. Every day you should thinking illness, aging, death, and loss is absolutely inevitable. This shall happen to me, like everybody else, and not 10 years from now. It can happen any time, not even at the end of the day, but any time in the day. Go into the death thing. Don't run away from it. Don't avoid it. Don't feel dejected because some prediction that 10 years from now you're going to die. Turn towards it and say, 10 years, 10 minutes. Yeah, everybody's got maybe 10 minutes. So you will get health, mental health out of this, because you're facing the truth. You're seeing the truth, and you're saying, well, it's a bad idea to be all crazy and fearful about this. So let's abandon that. Why would I inflict that on myself? And then let's get real about this. Death can come at any time. Yeah. Next.
Next question is from Anna in Weston-super-Mare, United Kingdom. Some people say it is selfish to, quote, lock oneself away in a monastery only to work on one's own enlightenment, not actively helping others. Is it?
Yeah, to some degree. It's self-help. I mean, it's being kind to yourself. The problem with helping others, like, let's say medical school. Is it selfish to go to lock yourself away in medical school for 4 or 5 years, not helping others? When you could be out there on the street helping others with your half-baked medical knowledge? Should a neurosurgeon, a brain surgeon, should they just quit medical school in first year and start operating on those brains? I mean, there's lots of people with brain injuries. What are those guys doing? It might take for a completion of a surgery, might take 12 years altogether. Shouldn't that person just maybe drop out in first year and start operating? Fixing brains? Look, the body itself is so complicated that medical doctors need, 8 years of training. And then it's just then they're just getting going. Advanced types of medicine, very specialty medicines can take 12 years. Psychotherapy, you want your psychiatrist to drop out in first year English? Drop out in the first semester of his English studies and start treating people psychiatrically? No. You have to go and train. For all of these things that are beneficial, you need training. And if, and only if, you complete the training, then you can be a healthy and practical help to others. But before that, you may, in fact, make the situation worse. This is the case with a lot of political movements. I'm sure Hitler was trying to fix the situation, make things better, right? He just was bad at it. Stalin, maybe Stalin, I'm not sure. I don't think any of these guys were trying to make it worse. They thought they were going to fix this situation, and it made it really much worse. So were they selfish? They weren't selfishly sitting meditating. They were out there being active on the street, helping people. So Mao, I think they lost 50 million in the Chinese Revolution. There's all kinds of people that are busy helping everybody, but because they lack insight into the nature of human well-being, they inflict more problems and pain and distress in the world. So this is why it's not selfish to go to a monastery and meditate. It's an educational process. And if it so happens that you are a good student and you have skills and abilities, then you might do a great deal of good, but not if you don't have the knowledge and so forth. So this is how to think about it. It's not a respected training in the improvement of humanity. Somehow medicine is, politics is, all of these things, but if the education is bad or not complete or misinformed, then a great deal of harm is done. Same with spiritual teachings. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Emma 1. Dear Ajahn, my pride has plagued me so much. I used to mistake myself for being humble, but when I had a discussion with people, I always wanted to persuade them with my own opinion, and when someone ignored me, I got angry a lot. I think one of the reasons why my life was painful was because of pride. I suffered from it, and I have strong self-esteem that I hate being ignored. This makes me avoid meeting people. How can I fix this when I have a strong ego?
While reflecting on the disadvantages of pride, I think in Christianity it's one of the 7 deadly sins, isn't it? Pride. Pride goeth before a fall. I think that's the explanation of, in Paradise Lost, the Lucifer fell. He was the most beautiful of the angels. Lucifer, by the way, means lucent, like light, radiant. And strangely, he went from being lucent and radiant to being dark and falling. And why? Because he was proud of being the most beautiful of the angels. So even if you're very beautiful, don't be proud of it. Pride interferes with the circuits of happiness. As you say, when you're blamed for something or not appreciated, then you get angry. It's because of pride. So pride is another word for a lack of skill, ignorance. You don't understand. Holding that view of yourself is dangerous because anybody who contradicts it causes you pain. And you don't want to hand over the keys to your well-being to somebody else, right? You don't want to allow anybody else to be in charge of your emotions. If you require respect or admiration, then you're handing over the keys to your well-being to other people because they don't all give you respect or admiration. So that's what pride is. Pride is another word also for ignorance, lack of skill, lack of understanding, lack of wisdom. The cure for it is wisdom, and seeing how patience and humility is another word for freedom from distress, and it is a form of well-being, and also a very you've given yourself immunity to the world's judgments. Okay.
Next question from the live stream is from Betty. There was a celebration of life for a Christian man who had everything: faith, love, family, friends, hobbies, joy of life, laughter. He hung himself because he was bipolar and the medicine no longer worked. What is the Buddhist view?
Well, this is the danger of delusion. And bipolar has all kinds of manifestations. Many people have. It's a fairly common effect. I don't know what the percentage is, maybe 1 or 2% of the population bipolar. Some extreme, some mild. I think everybody is a little bit bipolar, a little bit swings back and forth. You see that there are 5 hindrances, and 2 of them, the third and the fourth, are kind of agitation or excessive energy kind of thing, and the other one is sloth and torpor. We could say manic and depressive tendencies. So in a person where those are exaggerated, heightened, you can see it very clearly. It goes off the scale of the norm. But most normal people have those 2 hindrances of sometimes you're energized and a little agitated in the mind, and others you're depressive, out of energy, lacking, and slothful. So this is what it is. When it's exaggerated like that, then you'll see that a higher percentage of things like suicide. So the Buddha would say, or Buddhism would say, that it's karmic, that there are, it's not just strictly a phenomenon, genetic by a side effect, but somewhere in the past one has misdirected the mind or in some way, and then these are the resultants. Meditation seems to help, like all kinds of insights and meditations seem to help everybody. If somebody a normal person comes to a meditation retreat, they're going to experience both agitation, that way you can't focus your mind, you're too restless, and then depression. And meditation is designed to help teach you skills to work this out. Bipolar is just an exaggerated form of this, so that's what we offer. We don't offer medicines, but we don't dismiss medicines either. Some of the medications can keep a person in the middle, you know. So, you know, modern psychiatry and psychology attempts to address this stuff, and meditation is the only tools that we have. Buddhism only has the tools of, you know, good association, right association, serene environments, compassion, advice about the mind, and that's all we can offer for somebody. Of course, the individual has to take it up with determination as well. And I think there are people with bipolar that would say that meditation has benefited them as well. And others around them might suggest that it has as well. Just like normal people. You know, normal people go to retreats and they come back and their family says, you know, you're quite different now, and a new improved version of yourself. That's great. That's all we can offer. Again, we don't give like medical treatments. We only offer strategies for helping the mind. And they're not magic either. It's really, now I've had lots of people with bipolar come to the monastery and practice meditation. Sometimes they're in a lucid condition and they do just fine. And it improves the situation, including other types of mental illnesses. But if they're in a particular phase, you know, it's inappropriate for them to be in a meditation retreat. They disturb others and so forth. So it's not a hospital. A meditation center, monastery is not really a hospital. But it helps all kinds of conditions, but the person has to be in good enough shape to benefit from the experience. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Anicca Tanha. Question on the 4 nutriments. Please explain the last 2 nutriments in the sutta.
Yeah, so again, for the audience, the nutriments are the 4 nutriments. The first one is food. You know, it's how you keep your body going. You eat. Nutritional. And then the next one is the sense doors. The food of sights and sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and ideas. By the way, let's just talk about that sensory food. So most people experience extreme sensory deprivation if they're taken out of their normal thing. Most people depend heavily on, well, of course, everybody depends on physical food. Buddhism has no record of people living on sunshine or just air. Everybody needs food, including the Buddha. And secondly, are the sensory experiences the only source of this invigorating kind of nutriment? Is sights and sounds and smells and tastes and touches, music. If music be the food of love, play on. This kind of thing. So most people, that's where they get their their nutriment. And if it's taken away from them, if they're put in prison, if they're taken off into the forest and left, they actually feel like they're starving. They're sensory starvation. So the Buddha talks about the problems of that, maintaining your inflow of sensory experience and the sensory starvation. If you learn to meditate in a certain way, you can do without the sensory. What will naturally follow is your sensory appetite will naturally decline. You won't need that food because you have a mysterious inner source of food, and it ain't sunshine or air. It's mental. The last two of these four nutriments are volition and consciousness, and they. Why are they foods? You have to put them back into something we call dependent origination, in order to understand their causal structures. The decisions that you make restructure your consciousness, and that newly restructured consciousness will nourish the new decisions you make. So when you see this explanation of the Buddhist causality, Buddhist causality involves your moral decision, your ethical decisions, the decisions you make, and the consciousness, that awareness of the world around you and how you select things out of the world around you. That's a very important part of the causal process, the cause of suffering and the cessation of suffering. So decision-making feeds consciousness, and then the newly arranged consciousness feeds back into the new decision-making. So this is what is meant as a food. So it's very important that if you can make a moral decision, an ethically good, positive decision, it nourishes you. Virtue is nourishing, and people report this, that when they live a life of immorality or unethical life, it's very often described as dark and heavy. And if they make a change in their life, they abandon that, they experience an increasing lightness of being and happiness. So they're restructuring their consciousness through volition. And this new consciousness starts to make it easier to make ethical decisions. So the effort required to live a moral life becomes less effortful as one develops. So there's a cycle. So you want to put the nutriments back into the moral, mental nutriments back into this chain of causation called dependent origination. And if you're mystified by all this terminology, look it up, Google dependent origination, and you'll see two of the links there. Sankhara, or volition, conditions consciousness, which is called vijnana, and then there's a little arrow that goes back to consciousness, then conditions volitions as well. So there's a little feedback, a little whirlpool feeding back on itself in the chain of dependent origination. Okay, next.
Next question from the live stream is from Denise in Panama. Dear Ajahn, could you share your perception about what happens with the mind during sleep?
Yeah, consciousness shuts down. There's periods of unconsciousness. That you're not. There's no awareness there. Time. You have no sense of time. You wake up and look at the clock, and you discover that 4 hours have gone by. you don't have that sense of it going by. And then there's dreams. And dreams occur depending on your refinement of consciousness. So you will, by the way, so like in the 19th and early 20th century, a fellow named Freud got all interested in dreams. I mean, dreams have always been in religious literature. Are they predictive dreams, or what do they mean? So some aspects of psychiatry and psychology got very interested in dreams. Are they the key? Are they the royal road to the unconscious? Buddhism looks at it differently. Actually, the conscious mind is the royal road to the unconscious. Instead of concerning yourself with the contents of your dreams, concern yourself with the contents of your conscious mind and change them. Deliberately, frequently, relentlessly, you should be questioning what you're thinking, interrupting it, and changing the channel. You're not helplessly merely the victim or the observer of your thoughts. You are to interrupt them, prevent them, change them, introduce new ones, and then you will change the contents of your dreams, and you also change your sleep structures. So one of an important discourse by the Buddha, a sutta by the Buddha, is called the 11 Benefits of Loving Kindness. And the first 3 are very interesting. So it's preceded by an advocation to generate loving kindness frequently, deeply, consistently, skillfully, on and on, all day long. And then you can expect some benefits. And the first 3 are this: one sleeps well, one wakes well, and one does not have bad dreams. So the Buddhist approach to sleep is through the conscious mind, and specifically the cultivation of goodwill. Now, if you cultivate bad will, ill will, like in other words, hatred and so forth, you can expect 3 other results. You won't sleep well, and therefore you won't wake well, and you will have nightmares. If you cultivate anger, hostility, all of these things, you're going to sleep badly and wake badly and dream badly. If you do the opposite, cultivate a conscious attitude of goodwill. And by the way, it's not if everybody behaves themselves, you'll have goodwill to them. No, you don't care how they behave. The benefits of goodwill are yours. And you're not going to give anybody else control over your emotions because they behave badly. So there's some murderers and terrible, destructive beings roaming the planet, doing terrible things. Should you therefore sleep badly, have bad dreams because you're angry at them? No, you abandon those emotions because that just adds distress to the world. So you have goodwill, and even for those who are destructive, may they get over it. You don't wish them harm. May they, in fact, realize the error of their ways. And then you will affect your sleep and your dream life. You'll affect your conscious life and your unconscious life as well. So that's how we think about sleep.
Next question from the live stream is from Jagaro. Hi, Ajahn. Why is sampajanya part of body contemplation rather than mind contemplation, given its role in mindfulness quality control? It seems more related to mind contemplation. Could you clarify this?
Yeah, so for the audience, sampajanya is often hyphenated with another word, sati. So sati means mindfulness or attention. And sampajanya means panoramic awareness, situational awareness. And it's a form of intelligence. It's not just mere awareness. Both mindfulness and clear comprehension or situational awareness are mental faculties, and they, to the degree that they are trained and functional, then that they also have a certain quality of wisdom in it. You can't really separate it from a faculty of wisdom. So the clear comprehension is that we have two types of attention structure. And there's some fascinating investigation of this by the psychiatrist Ian McGilchrist, who has written a couple of very large and interesting books. One of them called The Master and His Emissary, and the other one is called The Matter with Things. The Matter with Things has got to be 1,800 pages long, so it's your summer reading. But it really investigates the nature of these two types of attention. And they're connected, apparently, they connect to the hemispheres of the brain. So this apparently virtually all mammals and most beings have two, kind of a split in the brain. And when they're separated, and they can be separated by surgery, and it's sometimes required, cases of severe epilepsy, they do an operation on the brain where they separate it into two hemispheres, and it quite often cures the epilepsy. And it's a kind of a strange thing that the two hemispheres are not really talking to each other so much. One side tends to be the panoramic side, and the other side seems to be the focus side. And why this is necessary is that much of the life of animals, for instance, and certainly to some degree of humans as well, is that they eat. And very specific types of attention, mindfulness is required, very acute attention is required to eat, to select your food out of the environment. So if you see a bird, they can pick seeds out from amongst sand, dirt. They will not just eat the dirt, they will pick the seed out. And that requires a very narrow focus of attention. And a deer browsing in a meadow, they will eat some plants but not other plants. And they won't just eat stones or dirt or anything. They need to attend very closely to select a very specific type of food from the environment. So that's one hemisphere. That's mindfulness. That's the focused attention. The other one is that while they're doing this, they need to avoid being eaten. So the bird needs to keep an eye out for the hawks or the eagles or predators that might eat the bird. So that the other hemisphere is keeping a panoramic, situational awareness going. And same with the deer. The deer needs to avoid being eaten by the lion or the tiger or the bear or the hunter while it's eating. So this is the two types of attention, and the Buddha is well aware of it. There are monks, for instance, that have great focused attention. They can sit in meditation and deeply enjoy themselves, withdrawn from the sensory world. But they do need to go out and eat, actually, and they need to go out into the village on alms round to receive food. And the type of attention that functions in meditation is not the type of attention required for that process. You moving your body through space. Notice that some absent-minded professors will put their shirt on backwards, or they will button their shirt in the wrong way, one extra button at the top, they're very focused on some particular work they have. Maybe they're physicists or musicians or something, but their bodily awareness, their awareness of the conduct of their body and the gestures they're making and so forth are lacking. So they're lacking sampajanya, this clear comprehension, situational awareness. You'll see eccentric people who are very brilliant, very focused, and they're really odd in terms of their social interactions. So this is the two types of awareness that need to be practiced, and it's built right into the monastic code that the monk should be aware of stretching one's arm, retracting one's arm, how they're wearing their robes. They're supposed to, the robes should be neatly wrapped in a certain specific way when they go out of the monastery, and so forth. That's sampajanya. So that's clear comprehension in terms of the rules of conduct for monks. Okay, so maybe one last question, and that's it.
Our final question today is from the live stream from Cavan in Pennsylvania, United States. What is the Buddhist view of loneliness? Is it attachment? I understand that many Zen masters isolate themselves for decades on end. How do they combat this?
Loneliness is, it's very normal. If you're deprived of human companionship, then you feel lonely. People, they have a dog or a pet or something to get, so they don't feel so lonely. But it's very natural. So normal people depend on society for a sense of well-being. The only way you can get out of this is through meditation, accomplishment of your sense of well-being through just your inner practice. And this would be a form of samadhi or concentration. The word you mentioned Zen masters. So Zen is the Japanese pronunciation of the Chinese word chan. And chan is the Chinese pronunciation of the Pali word and the Sanskrit word jhana. So jhana becomes chan, and then it becomes Zen. And in Korea, it becomes son. So what is Zen? It is jhana, and jhana is, what is jhana? It's the ability to withdraw your mind from the senses, the sensory world, the outside world, and to focus it inwardly on a sustained object, and to get your emotional satisfaction from that. A sense of joy, ease, or tranquility inward focus, away from the outside world of sights and sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and other people. And so that is how a person could dwell satisfactorily in solitude. And the Buddha does say, if a monk goes off to solitude, he wants to live in solitude, but he does not have the jhana, the samadhi, then he will experience nothing but restlessness and loneliness, and maybe even a little bouts of madness. So only way to live satisfactorily in solitude is to have the capacity for sustained concentration, types of meditation on concentration. Otherwise, you'll feel lonely, restless, lonely, miserable. But you can't break free if you don't have your inner resources. So you need your inner resources of meditation in order to be comfortable without companionship. Yeah. Okay, so we will end it for today, and we shall be back next week if things go our way.